Hi guys, welcome back to Dane Harden Martial Arts on YouTube. I want to thank you for subscribing. If you haven't already liked and subscribed to our channel, please consider doing so. Our goal for the 2023 year is to try to reach 1,000 subscribers. Right now we're at about 800, so we really just have 200 more to go. If you haven't hit the like and subscribe button, please do so. This series of videos coming up is going to be dedicated to the Korean martial art of Taekwondo. I began my training in Taekwondo in 1969. My teacher was the father of Taekwondo in the United States, this gentleman, Grand Master Rhee. Master Rhee is pretty much a legend throughout the martial arts community. What we're going to focus on is specifically our version of Taekwondo at Western Masters Martial Arts. There are lots of different spins on Taekwondo, just like a chef who uses his experiences to make different recipes to create different flavors. I use my experience of 55 years in the martial arts, of 35 years in the military, holding black belts in Aikido, Karate-do, Taekwondo, kickboxing, military combatives, and even a military career as well. So what you're going to see are the classical traditional methods of Taekwondo that we use as requirements and teaching tools at Western Masters Martial Arts. I hope you enjoy this video series. Thanks again for tuning in. Dane Harden Martial Arts on YouTube. So guys, in this first section, we're going to talk about SPF. So I'm not really talking about sun protection factor or sunscreens, even though I have retired to Florida and SPF 30 is a very useful thing. We're going to relate to SPF from the standpoint of this introductory lesson to Taekwondo. S stands for this concept of structure. P is going to be posture, and then the F is focus. So when you're looking at stances and positions, we have to think about what is the structure of the stance, and specifically I like to look at the head, shoulders, and hips to make sure that they're aligned and balanced. When we talk about posture, if our posture is poor, it can destabilize our stance and position, and that can weaken our ability to deliver power. The delivery of power requires a certain amount of focus. So when we talk about structure, we have to talk about even the most basic things like making a fist or making a chop. So we're going to start with that lesson. So when I make a fist, I like to take my hand and I will close the fingers together. I curl them in, and then my thumb is going to wrap on the base. My wrist wants to be straight. It's as if someone's taken a nail and driven it down through this first metacarpal so that there is no flexion in the wrist. When I deliver that punch, it really wants to be directly on my center line so that I'm constantly understanding that I have to occupy that center line in the way that I structure my body in order to deliver the best power delivery from the structure of my fist, my punch, my strike. The next structure that you'll see common, that would be a hand structure again, would be this idea of when I look at my hand as a sword, I want to put my fingers together, I want to curl my thumb in, and I like to attach the thumb to the side of my hand. I see a lot of folks who will bring the thumb away from the hand, and you can do that utilizing this V-bone position when you're striking with a ridge hand. But the classic idea of this was to have this in close, to have a slight curvature in the fingers. And again, I want my wrist to be completely straight. I want to use the base, what we would call in Japanese, the tegatan, right? What we call in Korean, the sudo. So it's just this idea of the knife hand. So those are the two basic hand positions that you'll see done an awful lot in Taekwondo styles. You'll also see palm strikes and rear wrist strikes, and elbow strikes, and shoulder bumps, and hip bumps, and kicks, headbutts. All of those things are fair game in Taekwondo practice, depending upon which version of Taekwondo that you're doing. Olympic Taekwondo is going to be a good bit different than the type of Taekwondo that I trained from under Master Rhee back in the late 60s. It was more focused at that time more on militaria because of its experiences with General Choi and the Korean War and those recent memories in my teacher's mindset. So that's a little bit about structure, about posture, and about focus. SPF, some of the basics of Taekwondo. So our first commands are going to be the commands for calling respect. So this initial command, chario, is this idea of attention. Kunji is pay respect, and we will do this at the beginning and also at the end of class, okay? So if I'm in my ready position, already lined up before class, the instructor will call chario. I will come to my position of attention, and then kunji, I bow. When I bow, I want to keep my eyes forward in Taekwondo. I'm looking at my opponent. And then as I come up, slowly, I stay in this position, and then I can come back into my ready stance, ready to train. So the commands chario, kunji, done at the beginning and at the end of every class to pay respect to the instructors who came before us. The next commands that are common after we bow in, chario, kunji, are usually going to be, you'll do a warm-up of some sort of stretching, things like that to get you ready for the class that's coming ahead. So the command for attention is called chunbi. When you hear chunbi called, you're just simply going to go from a ready position to chunbi. Then you're going to do whatever exercise it is that they call. And then they may say goman. And then the command is sho, wherein you can relax. Some people will go to a bow, but that's not necessary after every basic movement. So, junbi is called at the beginning of the class. When we're getting ready to do an exercise, we do the specific exercise that was called for. And then at the end of that exercise, we will say goman. And then to relax, we say sho. So, 준비, attention, come on, and show, relax. The basic commands for a Taekwondo class. So in this part of the film, we're looking at horse stance position. MAL-seogi. In a horse stance position, we're dropping down, centering our weight in the middle of the stance, and coming back to our classic junbi and then gaman and sho. As I turn, I'm going to drop back down into the horse stance position. I want to try to bend the knees in such a way that the flexion points improve my connection to the ground. It actually strengthens the position of the stance. The classic horse stance position isn't something that's done as a fighting posture. It's more of a training posture, something that when you're in a relatively deep horse stance, like I'm demonstrating now, will help to build up the quadriceps, the glutes, and the hips. It's a position that when I'm changing, you can see the knees flex slightly forward, but there's also some inward tension medially as the knees are being flexed laterally. I want to make sure that I keep my hips, shoulders, head, and neck all aligned directly over my hips, creating good connectivity to the earth, which helps me to establish good power whenever I'm doing this type of a horse stance position. Next is a front stance position. On our basic front stance position, we do what's called an S step, where our foot moves to the center line and then comes out. Our weight on this position is going to be about 70% forward, 30% rear. It's different from the horse stance, where the weight displacement was 50-50. This is a turning position called dorea der, which is the command for turn. Notice the front knee is bent. My knee wants to drop directly over where my big toe would be, so that I have appropriate curvature in the front leg. So now we're going to do this front stance position at speed. So I'm coming here. I like to put my hands on my hips, which allows me to put pressure down through the hips and into my structure. Now as I turn, again, that command, doria, der, we have commands of execution and a ready command. We'll talk about that on lesson 2 where we get into terminology. This position that's coming up is going to be a back stance. The difference between a back stance and a front stance is weight displacement. On the back stance, we're about 60% to 70% rear leg and somewhere between 30 and 40% front leg. My legs are going to be heels lined up and my feet should be at about a 90-degree angle from one another. Again, often people will call this back stance a fighting stance posture. There are many postures, and we're really just focusing on the big 4. 2 of them are named after animals, horse stance and cat stance, and 2 of them describe weight displacement, front stance, and then this posture, the back stance. In this exercise, we're demonstrating a cat stance. The Japanese for this is Neiko Ashidachi. Neiko just simply means cat. The term for Korean is listed here at the beginning of the exercise. You'll note that I'm coming up on my toes. Heel is off the floor. The weight displacement on a cat stance is about 90% on the back leg. In this series, we're going to do what Master Rhee used to call MAL-seogi. MAL-seogi were simply horse stance exercises that we did in class. We would often do these for 5 or 10 minutes. It really hits the quadriceps, hits the hips. It's a good conditioning drill. Certainly it's not something that we would use in a fighting posture, but it's simply a traditional training posture that was meant to condition and tone the muscles of the hips and the glutes. Again, you're going to see me drop down into now doing what are called maki drills. Rising block or chikomaki. It's going to be followed by outside to in blocks, and followed by inside to outside blocks. And we're going to follow those with low blocks. Notice I'm always sweeping through my center line of defense, which will be explained at later lessons. That's it, guys. Stay tuned for lesson 2.